we are recording.
Oh, that's wonderful. And hello, everyone. This is Paul. And once again, we are at Mark My Words, which is a podcast which concerns a lot of issues that we're going through at this point in our society and in our culture and our lives. And also, this is to continue with some of the issues that we've spoken about in the past that deal primarily, first of all, with rut management, and then with a couple of other books by Mark Cornelius that deal with marginalization and maybe some methodology here, some unmeasuring and listening techniques. And we're here once again with Mark Cornelius, who's the author of these books, among others. And he's urging us to basically take a step back and maybe try to look at what other tools we can pull out of our kit to maybe have a little bit more level approach and take a level approach as opposed to such polarized positions. So Mark, I'm going to kick this off with a good question for you.
Okay.
And you have brought some of this up before. You have mentioned different terms like the notion of mindset of marginalization and measurement and how to unmeasure. And as the viewers can see, you've placed your unmeasuring ruler, if you will, which really pertains more to self rather than to the society as a whole. Mark Cornelius, you want to go ahead and take the helm and explain a little bit of this to us?
Well, thanks, Paul. And yeah, we just front loaded this with a whole bunch of things to address. And I really, we've talked about this a lot. So I think this is the opportunity to talk about real time. And by real time, these are the COVID days. These are also the whatever life matters days, whichever quote unquote camp you're in. And that's the thing I want to address. Are we in camps? Are we in tribes of some sort? Is one more important than the other? Or, and are they all important? And does that offend as well? Because someone wants to stand out because their issue is so powerful in a moment. I get that. I mean, these are moments when we are all looking at a term I want to use instead of whether we matter or not. Are we being persecuted? And persecuted is a strong word, but it is part of marginalization. How do I set somebody apart? Well, I look at them and I either dismiss them or I lower them to a standard that's below my own, or I try to raise myself up and say I have opinions that are just more important than yours right now, and don't tell me that yours are more important than mine, because I don't want to hear that. So it's turning a blind ear and a blind eye to the fact that we are all marginalized. We are all guilty. I am of measuring in a way that sets myself at in a better position. So I want to try to get away from that, honestly. That's my whole goal, and that is where my faith and my spiritual reference is. I believe that each of us has a need to feel included. Each of us needs a time to tell our story, our real story, not our opinion, not the opinion of my, hold on. So anyway, sorry about that. you just saw me. Yeah. Okay, I'm sorry. That's the neighborhood I live in. How do you like that? Somebody's waving at the window saying, I want to give you something. I go, that's great. So anyway, just talking about the idea that each of us has a story, and yes, it's rooted in family and history and tribe and culture, and we have the need to back away from that right now. It's so hot and so charged that uh, when we try to talk about an opinion or try to weigh matters as far as who is more abused than another, it goes nowhere. But if I were to ask, such as I did a good friend of mine who came from the Congo, literally, and came here to this country, I said, "Tell me your story. That's what I really want to know. What happened in your origins that brought you to this point? I'm sincerely interested in that. And it takes more time that way. But if I learn to do that, if I do not set that other person apart by saying, you know what, you're a great guy, but hey, I'm a greater guy, or I think better than you do, or I act better than you do. Sorry, my God teaches me something different. We're not one of us is righteous in our own. We have to look at it from a spiritual content that, hey, in my case, I believe there's one who is righteous, and I have to follow that example. You might have a different opinion, other people might have a different opinion, but that's my story. So that's where I start. Does that make sense?
It does. And as a matter of fact, that brings up some of the mindset notions that you have in both of your books with
And you mentioned that, yeah.
marginalized. Yeah, they're in there. And the good news for that is that when you take one, and one book in particular, which talks about the mindset of marginalization,
Mhm.
and then you take another book uh, that is basically dealing with unmeasuring that particular mindset and going into a different mindset, which is a different measurement set, if you will. When everything that I've heard you say tells us that we perhaps have stopped listening to one another and we're just kind of hearing what each other is saying, looking for those little things that put us or keep us in our particular mindset.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
how does one really learn to listen better so that one can not just leapfrog the other person's conversation into our back down into our own mindsets and form opinions about what is being said rather than actually just listening to what's being said?
Thanks for asking, Paul. That's a very great question. And for some reason, I just lost, there we go. I just lost the ability to move from screen to screen. So let me get that back because that's going to involve, there we go. Now I got it. So I'm going to pull up the screen here. And this is taken out of one of my books, but it is also a something that I think everybody can benefit from. Um, okay, and I really want to set this up right. We live in a world that is all about contracts. Contracts are, I have I have something I want to get out of a relationship, and it's different from what you have. Okay, it's different from what you want to do. So I'm going to try to maneuver, if you will, so that I get what I want. Maybe you'll get what you want, and that's fine, but it's not the same thing. So we're already at odds. We're already creating friction. And I'll use a simple analogy. If I go out to buy a car, and I know that's not what we're talking about is cars, but that's just an example. I want to get a car for a very cheap price, and I want the best car I could get. Well, the seller of the car wants to sell the car for the highest price they can get and give me the least amount of options and and courtesy. I mean, sure, there'll be some integrity in there, but they don't want to go above and beyond. So we're already in an opposing relationship. Whereas if we are in I use the term a covenant relationship, where we're both after the same thing, it changes the whole dynamics. That's what, when I talk about a new paradigm, that's what I'm trying to do, is change the mindset so that we are all on the same page. We are all trying to accomplish the same thing. Instead of me trying to convince you that my position is better, let's explore a position together. So, and I know we're running short on time, so I want to get right to it. I have developed a listening method. And the whole idea is not to learn about somebody's opinion, but to learn about where they started from, how they came to be who they are, to allow them, if they want to, they don't have to. I mean, that's the other thing. This is, that's why it's a covenant. If you want to join in, learn about me. I'm more than happy to share about where I came from, what my challenges and struggles were, and what my, where things went great for me. I hope to learn the same about you. That make sense?
Absolutely. I'm looking at some of these bullet points. Do you care to go through them? And the wonderful thing about this, Mark, is that there are only really a few, quite a few. And I noticed that you have one that is repetitive there.
Ha!
And that is the thing that, to me, that is, I love that, what you've emboldened there with just simply be quiet, just shut up and let the person talk for as long as they want. And I think that's of incredible value, because it seems as if none of us are really wanting to allow that person. We're always waiting for someone to take a breath so we can step in. And I know that that's
Hard.
part of your technique there, is hold your breath.
It's so hard, especially for someone like me. I am filled with words. When I open my mouth, things come out. So I have to really fight that temptation to say, oh my gosh, Paul just said something, and I want to make a point. I want it to be my point, not something about him. And that, isn't that who we all are? In all honesty, I want to hear what you're saying and take advantage of that. And whether it's positive or negative advantage, rather than saying, this is all about Paul. I need to listen. Shut up.
That is a very strong point, because maybe sometimes when we've gotten ourselves to a quiet place, we can actually listen. And your next check summary, your hearing check summary, is really uh, straight and to the point. It just pretty much says, hey, this is what I hear you saying. And noting those verbs like thinking, believing, giving your opinion really come into play right there. Because if I feel as if I'm already passing judgment or measurement on you, then I have no way of listening properly to what you have to say, because I'm too busy listening to what I think I'm getting ready to say.
So
So
what
how,
I hear you saying, Paul, oh, are you done?
oh yeah, I was.
What I hear you saying is it's imperative that I listen to you. And what I heard you saying is that you don't want me to sound like I'm trying to change you.
Oh, that's a good point as well. And also, sometimes we have the feeling that when we're listening, we are typically handing authority over to the person who's doing the talking or the speaking, or the whoever is projecting an idea or a thought. And to me, I think that's where the rub is, because we have become so polarized that we're not ready to, at any point, we're not ready to hear what or listen to what someone else has to say, if it has to say something that we feel is authoritative and therefore defensive. Am I kind of on the beam with you at that point, or?
Good listening skills, my friend. Yes. And that's what it is. It's what just happened was that I interpreted something you said, and it wasn't exactly right. So you came back when I asked, and you clarified. So now I better understand Paul and the way he wants to be approached in listening.
Oh, I see. I see that. And there's much work and much training for all of us. We have to all learn to take a step back or figure out how to step back on solid ground and not feel defensive about taking that step back, right?
Right. And as a matter of fact, that's where I want to kind of hit, really hit the road and run with this. We, as a society, are hurting ourselves terribly by destroying our true relationships with each other. And I want to use this as a simple building block. The book's management, which we'll talk about more, but also marginalization and unmeasuring are simply addressing an issue which exists and looking for solutions for covenants. An old-fashioned word maybe, but it really hits the mark. So this particular page, which we've kind of gone through, is an opportunity to learn about each other. And what I would do is offer this to anyone who would want to know more about how to approach others. And let's walk together in that. So probably I'm going to assume that you're going to ask me where people would find this information and how they could request this information. Am I right about that?
You're right on it. And I was going to say that because we're kind of running short on time, we have gone a little bit longer, and we'd like to thank everyone for listening as we're sharing this information with you. Mark, where else can we find more information, such as your email, your website? Where can we, do you mind posting on the screen here? There, you've done it.
There it
See,
is. That's where I
that's
was going.
good listening.
Uh, well, I would really love to, and I know you would too. You could share this too, Paul. But we'd love to hear from people if they want a copy of the listening method. I'm glad to share that. That is, uh, there's nothing to that. I would love to have dialogue with people so they can email me and or us at markcwrites@gmail.com. We do have a Facebook page, Mark My Words, and it's right there for everyone to enjoy and come on to. And all of our episodes of Mark My Words will be posted there. There's a website if you want to acquire any of the books that have been written and posted on this, and that's at www.rutmanagement.com. And last but certainly not least, there's a YouTube channel where you can view all of the different Mark My Word episodes as well. And if you enjoy YouTubing, there it is to be had.
That's great information, Mark, and I really appreciate your popping that up there for everyone and posting it. Um, I'm believing right now that we're kind of running short on time. Do you
Oh,
have
we are.
anything else to add at this point? Otherwise, I'll just close this thing out because I believe what we may do for our next segment, folks, is depending upon maybe hearing back from some of our listeners and whatnot, that perhaps maybe we'll go back and tackle rut management again, since we left that in order to basically squeeze in marginalization and unmeasuring. Vital, the two books, Marginalized and Unmeasuring, good for the time right now, important for the time. So Mark, thank you very much for coming on board over here. And once again, I guess we'll just get back to all the folks on our next segment.
Sounds good, Paul, and I am stopping the recording.